Some individuals believe that being married to someone in power makes them powerful. That cold February morning, I observed a woman discover the difference between borrowed authority and actual consequences. Her name was Linda Walsh, and by the time she left my courtroom, her world had completely changed. It began with what should have been a simple speeding ticket. Officer Maria Santos, experienced cop, 5 years on the force, never received a single complaint, stops a black sedan doing 60 in a 35 zone. But this wasn't just any street. This was Elmwood Avenue at 8:15 a.m., directly through Roosevelt Elementary's school zone. Children walking to school with their backpacks, crossing guards trying to keep everyone safe, parents dropping off their children. And this driver decides traffic laws are suggestions. When Officer Santos approaches the vehicle, she's expecting the usual: license, registration, maybe an excuse about being late for work. Instead, the window rolls down, and rather than a license, she gets a police badge shoved in her face, like some kind of magic charm. "Do you know who I am?" the driver demands, her voice dripping with authority she never earned. "I'm Linda Walsh. My husband is Chief of Police Robert Walsh. This better disappear right now, or you'll be looking for a new job tomorrow morning." Officer Santos, brave and professional, keeps her composure. She's dealt with difficult people before, but nothing quite like this. "Ma'am," she says politely, professionally, "I need to see your driver's license and registration, please." "You need to get your eyes checked, officer," Linda shoots back, waving the badge again. "I just showed you my husband's badge. That's all the identification I need in this city. Don't you know how things work around here?" Her husband's badge. Like marriage somehow gave her police powers. Like walking down an aisle gave her law enforcement authority. Officer Santos stands her ground. "Ma'am, that badge belongs to your husband. I need your identification." "My identification?" Linda's voice gets sharper, more dismissive. "Officer Santos, is it?" She reads the nameplate like she's memorizing it for later retaliation. "Let me explain something to you, sweetheart. My husband runs this police department. He signs your paychecks. He approves your promotions. So when I tell you to make this ticket disappear, you make it disappear." But Officer Santos writes the ticket anyway, because that's what good cops do. They follow the law regardless of who thinks they're above it. She hands it through the window with professional courtesy, explains the court date, and watches Linda Walsh drive away, muttering threats under her breath. 2 hours later, Chief Robert Walsh storms into the police station like a hurricane. 20-year veteran, decent record until his wife started thinking she wore the badge too. He finds Captain Rodriguez in his office and doesn't even bother closing the door. "Rodriguez," he shouts, loud enough for half the station to hear, "what the hell is wrong with your people? One of your officers just harassed my wife." Captain Rodriguez, decent man with 30 years on the force and exactly zero patience for corruption, looks up calmly. "What kind of harassment are we talking about, Chief?" "Santos gave Linda a speeding ticket in a school zone. Do you understand how embarrassing this is for my family?" "Did your wife break the speed limit in a school zone?" "That's not the point." Chief Walsh's face is turning red now. "The point is that my family doesn't get tickets. My family doesn't get treated like common criminals." Common criminals. Like following traffic laws was only for lesser people. "Chief," Captain Rodriguez says carefully, "tickets aren't based on family connections. They're based on violations." "I don't want to hear about violations," Walsh snaps. "I want this fixed. I want the ticket voided. And I want Santos to understand that there are consequences for not showing proper respect to command staff families." "What kind of consequences?" That's when Chief Walsh makes his crucial mistake. "Fix this, or Santos finds herself walking a beat in the worst part of town. Maybe a few months of dealing with gang violence will teach her about departmental priorities. But here's what Chief Walsh didn't count on. Captain Rodriguez has been recording all conversations in his office since the last corruption investigation. Every word, every threat, every attempt to use official position for personal benefit. The next morning, that recording lands on my desk along with a formal complaint filed by Captain Rodriguez. Also included, Officer Santos's incident report, the citation details, and a note explaining that he felt this warranted judicial review. So there I am, 8:30 a.m. sharp, reviewing this mess while Christina makes her morning rounds. Strong Italian coffee in hand when she walks in with that look that means more trouble. Judge, she says, Mrs. Walsh called 3 times yesterday. About her court date? About discussing this matter privately before court starts today. Her exact words were, surely we can resolve this without all the public drama. Discuss this matter privately. Code words for, can we make this go away without consequences? Public drama. Like that's what justice is to people like her. What did you tell her? I told her that traffic violations are handled publicly in open court like everyone else's. No special meetings, no private discussions, no backroom deals. Good, because the last thing this city needs is the appearance that justice depends on who you're married to. Christina nods, but she's not finished. Judge, there's more. Chief Walsh called my house last night. He called your home? Around 9 p.m., said he wanted to clarify some misunderstandings about his wife's situation. Wanted to know if there was flexibility in the process for families who've served the community. This was getting worse by the hour. Now we had a police chief trying to influence court staff at their homes. What did you tell him? I told him to discuss any concerns with his lawyer and hung up. But Judge, nobody's ever called my house about a traffic ticket. The corruption was spreading. First, the wife thinks she's above the law. Then the husband threatens officers and tries to influence court personnel. 9:30 a.m. sharp, Linda Walsh walks into my courtroom. Professional outfit, confident stride, carrying herself like someone who expects red carpet treatment. She's not alone. Chief Walsh is sitting in the back row, probably thinking his presence will influence the proceedings. Also in the gallery, Captain Rodriguez, Officer Santos, and several other police personnel who'd heard about this. Linda Walsh, Christina calls out. Speeding in the school zone, failure to provide proper identification, and attempting to interfere with the police officer's duties. Up she walks to my bench, and I can already see the attitude. Not nervous, like most people facing a judge. Not respectful, like citizens who understand they broke the law. Just annoyed, like this whole process is beneath her dignity. Mrs. Walsh, I begin, looking at the citation and the reports. You were clocked at 60 miles per hour in a 35 zone, in a school zone, during school hours. Do you understand the charges? Your Honor, she says, and her voice has that tone people use when they think they're talking to someone who doesn't quite grasp the big picture. I think there's been a serious misunderstanding here. A misunderstanding, right out of the entitled person's playbook. What kind of misunderstanding, Mrs. Walsh? Well, she says, glancing back at her husband for support, her confidence already wavering slightly. I believe Officer Santos may have been confused about the situation. When I showed her my husband's police identification, she should have understood that this was a professional courtesy matter. Professional courtesy matter. She actually thinks flashing her husband's badge should have gotten her out of a ticket for endangering children's lives. Mrs. Walsh, I say, keeping my voice level and professional, help me understand something here. Are you a sworn police officer? No, Your Honor, but are you a member of law enforcement in any official capacity? No, Your Honor, but my husband... Mrs. Walsh, your husband's position doesn't give you authority to break traffic laws or flash police credentials that don't belong to you. That's when her mask starts to slip, when the fake politeness gives way to her real attitude. Ivana, with all due respect, I think you're missing the bigger picture here. My husband works incredibly hard to keep this community safe. He puts his life on the line every single day. He's dedicated 20 years of his life to protecting the citizens of Providence. I think a little professional courtesy is warranted when his family encounters minor situations like this. Minor situations. Doing 60 in a school zone is a minor situation. Endangering children walking to school is professional courtesy territory. I can see Officer Santos in the gallery, her jaw clenched, probably thinking about all the times she's written tickets for people doing half that speed. Mrs. Walsh, I continue, my voice getting a bit sharper. Let me read you exactly what Officer Santos wrote in her incident report. Driver became immediately belligerent when asked for license and registration. Refused to provide proper identification for approximately 10 minutes. Instead showed what appeared to be a police badge while making verbal threats about my employment and career prospects. Driver stated multiple times that traffic laws did not apply to her due to her husband's position. Your Honor, I didn't threaten anyone, she protests, but her voice lacks conviction. I simply explained who I was and tried to clarify the situation. According to this report, Mrs. Walsh, you told Officer Santos she'd be looking for a new job tomorrow if she didn't make the ticket disappear. You told her that you could make things very difficult for officers who don't show proper respect to command staff families. How is that clarifying rather than threatening? She looks back at her husband again, seeking rescue. Chief Walsh is shifting uncomfortably in his seat, probably realizing this isn't going the way his wife expected. The other officers in the gallery are watching intently, some probably hoping justice will finally catch up with this entitled behavior. Your Honor, Linda tries a different approach, her voice becoming smaller, more manipulative. I've been under tremendous stress lately. My husband's job puts enormous pressure on our entire family. The threats he receives, the danger he faces, the long hours, sometimes that stress affects my judgment. I'm not making excuses, just trying to help you understand the context. Stress affects her judgment, but apparently not enough to slow down in a school zone where children's lives are at stake. Mrs. Walsh, were you aware that the school zone speed limit exists to protect children? Of course, but I was late for an appointment, and the roads were relatively empty. Mrs. Walsh, the speed limit isn't suggestions based on how late you're running or how empty the roads look to you. I understand that, but surely, do you understand that children's lives are more important than your appointment? That stops her cold. Because when you put it that way, when you strip away all the excuses and entitled attitudes, it comes down to something simple. She risked kids' safety because she was late. Of course children's lives are important, she says, but her voice is smaller now. Then help me understand why you thought 60 in a 35 zone was acceptable. I made a mistake. And when Officer Santos pulled you over for that mistake, what did you do? I tried to explain the situation. Mrs. Walsh, according to this report, you refused to provide your driver's license. You showed a police badge that doesn't belong to you. You threatened an officer's employment. You demanded special treatment based on your husband's position. Is that explaining the situation? She's starting to realize this isn't going to end with a warning and an apology. Your Honor, I may have been more assertive than necessary, but Mrs. Walsh, let me ask you something. If any other citizen had done exactly what you did, speed through a school zone, refuse to provide identification, threaten a police officer, what do you think should happen to them? Long pause, because she knows the answer. and she knows it doesn't involve special treatment. They should face the consequences of their actions, she admits reluctantly. And why should you be any different? Another pause. Because she can't finish the sentence. Because the only honest answer is, because I think I'm better than everyone else. And even she can't say that out loud in a courtroom. But here's where it gets interesting. I hear someone stand up in the back of the courtroom. It's Chief Walsh. He's walking toward the front, and I can see Linda's face light up. She thinks Daddy's coming to rescue her. Your Honor, Chief Walsh says, may I address the court? Chief Walsh, your wife is the defendant here. Unless you're a witness to these events, I don't see how your testimony is relevant. Your Honor, I just want to say that my wife has learned from this experience. She realizes she made mistakes, and she's prepared to accept responsibility. Accept responsibility. Chief, did your wife ask you to speak for her? He looks at Linda, who nods eagerly. She thinks her husband's going to fix this mess. Yes, Your Honor, she did. Mrs. Walsh, I say, looking directly at her, are you unable to speak for yourself in my courtroom? No, Your Honor, but then Chief Walsh, please take your seat. Your wife can represent herself. Chief Walsh looks surprised. His wife looks panicked. They expected his authority to carry weight here, but that's not how justice works. Mrs. Walsh, I continue, let's talk about what happened after Officer Santos wrote your ticket. I'm not sure what you mean. I mean your husband's attempt to have the ticket voided and Officer Santos disciplined. Her eyes go wide. She didn't know about the recording. Your Honor, I don't know anything about that. Mrs. Walsh, are you saying you didn't ask your husband to intervene on your behalf? Long pause. She's trying to figure out how much I know. I may have mentioned the situation to him. What exactly did you mention? I told him that I felt Officer Santos was unprofessional. Unprofessional how? She was rude to me. Mrs. Walsh, according to Officer Santos's report, she was polite throughout the entire encounter. She asked for your license and registration 3 times before you finally provided them. She explained the violation clearly. She remained calm even when you became aggressive. What part of that was unprofessional? She didn't show proper respect for my position. What position is that? I'm the police chief's wife. And what special respect does that position entitle you to? Another long pause. Because there isn't an answer that doesn't sound completely entitled and ridiculous. Mrs. Walsh, I say, let me be very clear about something. In my courtroom, everyone is equal under the law. Rich, poor, connected, unknown. Everyone gets the same justice. Your husband's position doesn't give you immunity from consequences. I understand that, Your Honor. Do you? Because your actions suggest otherwise. That's when I decide to play the recording. Mrs. Walsh, I have something I'd like you to hear. I nod to Christina, who starts the audio. Chief Walsh's voice fills the courtroom. Fix this, or Santos finds herself walking a beat in the worst part of town. Linda's face goes pale. She had no idea her husband's threats were recorded. Mrs. Walsh, I continue, after the recording ends, did you ask your husband to threaten Officer Santos's career? No, Your Honor, I never. But you did complain to him about the ticket. Yes, and you expected him to make it disappear. I thought he might be able to help. Help how? I don't know. I thought he had influence. Mrs. Walsh, what you thought was that rules don't apply to you. What you thought was that your marriage to a powerful man put you above the law. What you thought was that threatening a good police officer's career was an acceptable way to avoid consequences. She starts crying now. Not the manipulative tears some people try to use in court, but genuine tears, of someone who's finally understanding how far they've fallen. Your Honor, she says through the tears, I made terrible mistakes. I'm sorry. Mrs. Walsh, sorry doesn't undo endangering children's lives. Sorry doesn't undo attempting to corrupt a police officer. Sorry doesn't undo trying to abuse your husband's position for personal benefit. What can I do to make this right? You can stop by accepting full responsibility without excuses. I accept full responsibility. For what specifically? For speeding in a school zone, for refusing to cooperate with Officer Santos, for trying to use my husband's position inappropriately, and for the threat to Officer Santos's career. I didn't know about that. Mrs. Walsh, whose fault is it that your husband threatened Officer Santos? She understands what I'm asking. Whose actions set this whole chain of events in motion? Mine, she whispers. It's my fault. That's right. Your choices, your consequences. I sentence her to the maximum fine for school zone speeding, $500. I order her to complete defensive driving school. I require 40 hours of community service working with school crossing guards so she can see firsthand why those speed limits exist. But most importantly, I banned her from using her husband's position for any personal matter ever again. Any attempt to leverage Chief Walsh's authority for personal benefit would result in additional charges. Mrs. Walsh, I conclude, you came into my courtroom thinking you were above the law. You're leaving with a clear understanding that nobody is. As she walks away, Chief Walsh approaches my bench. Your Honor, he says quietly, I want to apologize for my behavior in this matter. Chief, your wife's actions are her responsibility, but threatening a good officer's career reflects poorly on your leadership. I understand. I've spoken with Captain Rodriguez about ensuring this never happens again. See that it doesn't. 3 months later, I got a letter from Officer Santos. Judge Caprio, I wanted to thank you for supporting me in the Walsh situation. Mrs. Walsh completed her community service and actually apologized to me in person. She said working with the crossing guards taught her why those speed limits matter. Linda Walsh learned that borrowing power isn't the same as earning respect, that marriage to authority doesn't grant authority, that everyone is equal under the law. My father used to say, Frank, respect is like trust. You can't steal it, you can't buy it, you can only earn it. Linda Walsh tried to steal respect through her husband's badge. Instead, she learned that real respect comes from accepting responsibility. I'm Frank Caprio. Remember, nobody is above the law, no matter who they're married to. Thanks for listening, and God bless.